Welcome to Hot Soup Stories. The night the Dragon Emperor died, the palace kitchens fell silent for the first time in 1,000 years. No sizzling woks, no grinding pestles, no sweet steam rising from bamboo baskets. Only the wailing of court attendants and the metallic clatter of armor as soldiers sealed the imperial hall. But inside the emperor's private chamber, where lanterns burned low and incense curled like pale ghosts, one man remained calm. Li Wei, the youngest imperial chef in 3 dynasties, stood by the emperor's bedside clutching a heavy, leather-bound book. It was warm, as if still holding the old man's pulse. The emperor's voice, thin as cracking paper, whispered, "Li Wei, my last recipe is not food, it is truth." Li Wei knelt. "Your Majesty, the physicians." "No physicians." The emperor's clouded eyes sharpened. "Listen to me, boy. The dynasty is built on lies, and the only one who can follow the trail is you." Li Wei felt his throat tighten. He was only 23, a kitchen apprentice elevated by a strange twist of fate. When the emperor tasted his soup 3 years ago, he declared, "This boy cooks with honesty." Now that same boy was being handed a secret heavier than the throne. These recipes, the emperor's fingers brushed the cover. Each dish hides a piece of the past, a treasure, a scandal, and a truth no historian must ever know, but you must. Li Wei hesitated. "Why me?" "Because only a chef sees beyond ingredients. You know that real flavor comes from what is hidden." A cough seized him, harsh and final. The room trembled with the knowledge that the line of emperors had ended. As the last breath slipped out of his lips, the lantern flames flickered as though bowing in farewell. Li Wei stared at the book. It was beautiful in a haunting way, sealed with 5 golden clasps shaped like dragon claws and smelling faintly of sandalwood and old ink. He opened it. The first page was written in the emperor's sharp calligraphy, the strokes fierce despite his age. Recipe 1: Phoenix broth. Boil not for warmth, but for memory. Within the ashes, a secret sleeps beneath the Red River Bridge. Li Wei's heart dropped. A treasure clue, a location, a hidden scandal. Before he could turn another page, the doors burst open. General Han, head of palace security, marched in with his soldiers. His gaze locked onto the book and hardened. "What did the emperor give you?" he demanded. Li Wei closed the book instinctively. "His personal writings." "Hand it over." Li Wei's instincts screamed. Something was wrong. The general's eyes held greed, not duty, and if the emperor had wanted the book in the hands of his generals, he would have given it to them himself. "He entrusted it to me," Li Wei said slowly. General Han stepped closer. "The emperor is dead. His secrets now belong to the state." State. Dynasty. Power. Li Wei suddenly understood. The emperor had feared this. That the truth inside the recipes would be twisted, weaponized, used to rewrite history for those hungry for the throne. "I will return it after the mourning period," Li Wei lied. The general smirked. "Wrong answer." He lunged. Li Wei dodged, clutching the book to his chest. A soldier grabbed him, but Li Wei twisted like a slippery eel, years of darting between hot stoves making his reflexes sharp. He sprinted out the back door of the chamber, heart pounding. The hallways blurred as shouts echoed behind him. "Stop him! He has the emperor's book. Do not let him leave the palace." Outside, the sky was a deep indigo, the moon veiled by winter clouds. Snowflakes drifted silently, softening the world except for the sound of pursuit. Li Wei rushed toward the imperial gardens, feet sinking into snow. He knew every corner of the palace, its hidden tunnels, its forgotten servant paths, its kitchen supply routes. If there was one advantage he had over the generals, it was the knowledge of places no noble bothered to see. He ducked into a storage hut used for aging vinegar, dark, cold, quiet. He leaned against a wall, panting, pressing the recipe book to his forehead. What had the emperor gotten him into? He lit a small oil lamp and opened the book again. Another line caught his eye, written faintly in the margin as if added in secret. Trust no one wearing red. General Han's uniform was crimson. Li Wei felt his stomach twist. He turned to the next page, expecting another recipe, but instead he found a brushed ink drawing of a phoenix, rising, wings spreading fire across a map. A map of the empire. Under it, a line of poetry. Where flames meet water, the past begins to boil. He closed the book. He didn't fully understand it, but he understood enough. The emperor wanted him to uncover something. Something hidden. Something dangerous. Something worth killing for. A sudden sound behind him made him freeze. Snow crunched. Soft, slow footsteps approached the hut. Li Wei. A woman's voice, calm, familiar. He recognized it instantly. Princess Rong, the emperor's granddaughter. The only royal who ever stepped inside the kitchens. She used to sneak in at midnight for sweet buns and lotus tea, laughing like someone who carried no throne on her shoulders. Li Wei opened the door a crack. She stood in the snow, her cloak the color of moonlight, her expression unreadable. "Come with me," she whispered urgently. "You're in great danger." Li Wei hesitated. "Do you know about the book?" Her silence was answer enough. "General Han will not stop," she continued, "and you cannot imagine how many in this palace want what you have." Li Wei finally stepped out. "Why help me?" Her eyes softened. "Because my grandfather trusted you, and because I am not ready to let the last truth of our dynasty fall into the wrong hands." Before Li Wei could reply, a horn blared from the palace walls. Torches flared in the distance. The search was expanding. Princess Rong grabbed his wrist. "There is only one place you can go now, the Red River Bridge." Li Wei's breath caught. The first clue. The first recipe. The emperor's first secret. "But why there?" he asked. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Because that's where the dynasty truly began, and where it might end again." And so, with the emperor gone, the palace hunting him, and the fate of history hidden inside dishes written in elegant ink, Li Wei took his first step onto a path of cooked clues, ancient conspiracies, and secrets simmering beneath the surface. The hunt for the emperor's last recipe had begun. Snow clung to Li Wei's boots as he followed Princess Rong through the shadowed bamboo forest behind the palace. The night was cold enough to freeze breath midair, yet sweat dampened his back. The recipe book felt heavier with every step, as though the secrets inside were waking. The princess walked swiftly but not recklessly. She knew which stones made noise, which branches snapped under weight, which guards patrolled which paths. Born in a golden cage, she still moved as if she had spent her life studying its cracks. "Once we reach the river," she murmured, "we follow the old fisherman's trail. The guards won't think to search there." "Why help me at all?" Li Wei asked again. "Whatever the emperor hid, isn't it dangerous for you too?" Princess Rong paused only long enough to look back at him. Her eyes, silver in the moonlight, held both fear and determination. "My grandfather never trusted the court," she said, "nor generals nor advisors, but he trusted you, a chef with honest hands." A faint smile tugged at her lips. "I've never seen him speak to anyone the way he spoke to you tonight." Li Wei swallowed. The memory of the emperor's last rasped words still echoed in his skull. "The dynasty is built on lies. The only one who can follow is you." "Whatever he wanted me to find," Li Wei said quietly, "it has nothing to do with skill. It's something bigger." Princess Rong didn't argue. They emerged from the trees and reached a frozen pond, the moon shimmering on its surface. On the far side lay a narrow path leading toward the Red River. As they crossed, Faint lights flickered behind them, torches. Li Wei tensed. They've come this far already. They're not following our tracks, Mei Rong replied with a whisper. They're searching everywhere. Because of the book, Li Wei said. No, she answered, because of what the book might reveal. Before Li Wei could ask more, she motioned for silence and dropped to the ground. Voices carried through the forest. General Han says the chef boy escaped through the gardens. Search the river route. If he reaches the bridge, we'll lose him. Orders are to capture alive. The emperor wrote something before he died. Li Wei's blood iced. Princess Mei Rong nudged him. We go now. They slipped away from the voices and reached the Red River an hour later. The water glimmered under the moon, flowing dark and quiet like a serpent waiting to strike. The ancient Red River Bridge stretched across it, an elegant arch of stone worn smooth by centuries. The bridge was older than the dynasty itself. Li Wei approached cautiously. What could be hidden here? Look at the recipe, the princess reminded him. Li Wei opened the book and read. Phoenix broth. Boil not for warmth, but for memory. Within the ashes, a secret sleeps beneath the Red River Bridge. Memory, Li Wei repeated. Ashes. Princess Mei Rong peered over his shoulder. Phoenix, ashes, rebirth, something burned. Or something meant to be reborn, Li Wei murmured. He scanned the bridge. Snow had dusted the stones, but something about one of the railings caught his eye, a small, circular indentation in the stone. He brushed snow away. A bowl-shaped hollow, carved intentionally. A cooking bowl shape, Li Wei said, for offering, ritual, or. The princess leaned closer. Does it match something from the book? Li Wei flipped through the pages. Between recipes, drawings, and coded poetry, he found a sketch of a bowl carved into stone, exactly this shape. Below it was a line. Heat reveals truth, cold hides lies. Li Wei exhaled slowly. It needs warmth. But it's winter, Mei Rong said. Everything is frozen. Li Wei opened his satchel. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was the small travel stove he always kept with him. A habit from years of training. One never knew when a quick broth might be needed. Stand back, he said. He placed the stove under the stone bowl and lit a small flame. Slowly, the stone warmed. Snow melted. Steam rose like breath from a waking dragon. A soft crack echoed. The stone bowl shifted. Princess Mei Rong's eyes widened. It moved. Li Wei pushed gently. The stone panel slid aside, revealing a hollow compartment carved deep beneath the railing. Inside lay an old scroll, wrapped in gold thread, sealed with wax bearing the imperial emblem. Li Wei reached for it. A voice thundered across the riverbank. Step away from the bridge. Li Wei spun around. General Han stood at the foot of the bridge, flanked by a dozen soldiers. Their torches burned like fiery eyes in the dark. Princess Mei Rong stepped in front of Li Wei instinctively. General Han, you dare threaten a royal. I follow orders of the court, he barked. The emperor is dead, the council rules for now, and they demand that scroll. Li Wei clutched the scroll tightly. Hand it over, Han commanded, and you may live. Li Wei shook his head. The emperor trusted me, not the council. General Han's lips twisted. The emperor was dying. His mind was clouded. Don't pretend he meant for a boy from the kitchens to protect the empire's secrets. Princess Mei Rong raised her voice. General, if you touch him, I will. You will do nothing, Han snapped. I serve the new power. His soldiers surged forward. Li Wei had a choice. Surrender the scroll or run into the river's black waters. He chose neither. He grabbed the princess's hand and bolted toward the far side of the bridge. Han shouted and arrows flew. One grazed Li Wei's arm. Another shattered against stone. Jump, Mei Rong cried. You said not to. I changed my mind. Together they leaped over the side of the bridge. The icy river swallowed them instantly. The cold was brutal, a crushing force stealing breath and thought. Li Wei held the recipe book high above water even as his body numbed. Princess Mei Rong surfaced beside him, shivering violently. "This way," she gasped, pointing to the riverbank's shadowy edge. They fought the current and reached the muddy shore downstream, hidden by reeds. General Hand's soldiers searched the river upstream, torches moving like angry fireflies, but none thought to check farther down. Li Wei collapsed on the shore, chest heaving. Mei Rong lay beside him, drenched, trembling. "We can't stay here," she whispered. "They'll sweep the banks." Li Wei forced himself up. "There's a fisherman's hut nearby, abandoned. We can shelter there." The hut was barely more than a broken shack, but it offered cover and a dying fire pit. Li Wei used the remaining dry wood to warm them both. Only once the shivers faded did they finally unroll the scroll. 7 faded characters glowed in the firelight. Princess Mei Rong read them aloud. "The phoenix was never meant to reign." Li Wei stared. "What does that mean?" she whispered. Li Wei slowly lifted the recipe book. On its cover, embossed in gold, was the emblem of the phoenix, symbol of the imperial bloodline. "What if," he said softly, "the emperor was trying to tell us that the royal family isn't truly royal?" Princess Mei Rong froze. "No," she breathed. "That's impossible. Our bloodline stretches back 400 years." "Built on lies," Li Wei reminded her. "His words." Mei Rong shook her head. "If this is true, it means treason. It means the dynasty was founded on deception. It means—" She looked at Li Wei, fear darkening her gaze. "It means the recipe book contains proof that could destroy the throne." Li Wei swallowed, "Which is why the council wants it." "No," she grabbed his arm, "which is why they'll kill anyone who reads it." A silence, heavy as stone, filled the hut. Then Li Wei unrolled the scroll further. More lines appeared, faint but still legible. "Seek the second recipe. The lotus soup of the forgotten temple. There lies the first truth of the false phoenix." Princess Mei Rong exhaled shakily. "Another clue, another secret." Li Wei gently closed the scroll. "The emperor left us a path, recipe by recipe." "And the council won't let us reach the end," Mei Rong whispered. Li Wei nodded slowly. "Then we must outrun them." Outside, the wind howled through the reeds, carrying the distant echo of soldiers calling his name. Inside the hut, Li Wei tightened his grip on the emperor's last recipe book. The hunt had entered its second chapter. The lies of a dynasty were beginning to unravel. And the next step lay in a forgotten temple, hidden deep within a land that wanted them dead. Dawn broke over the river like a blade of pale gold. Mist curled around the reeds, turning the world soft and ghost-like. Li Wei and Princess Mei Rong had slept in turns, huddled near the last embers of the fire. Exhaustion lay heavy on their bones, but the weight of the scroll and the recipe book pressed heavier still. Li Wei rolled up the scroll carefully and tucked it into the back cover of the recipe book. The title of the next clue pulsed in his mind like a drum. The lotus soup of the forgotten temple. Princess Mei Rong stepped outside the hut, brushing twigs from her hair. "The forgotten temple," she murmured, "is not on any map used by the court. Only pilgrims and monks know of it." Li Wei stood beside her. "Do you?" She hesitated. "I've heard stories. My grandmother used to say that long before the Phoenix emperors ruled, a temple stood on the eastern mountain ridge. It was abandoned when the first Phoenix emperor forbade old religions." "Why forbid them?" Mei Rong's expression darkened. "Because old religions meant old histories, and old histories meant contradictions." Li Wei understood instantly. So if the emperor hid a clue there, it must mean that the truth about the dynasty lies older than the dynasty itself, Mei Rong finished. They couldn't waste more time. By midday, they reached a small trading village along the riverbank. The villagers watched strangers with suspicion, especially ones in soaked clothes with noble features and a book held too tightly. Mei Rong pulled her hood low. Li Wei kept his head down. The market was alive with sound, fishmongers yelling prices, children running with kites, old men smoking pipes near the tea house. It should have felt safe. It didn't. Li Wei tugged the princess toward a quiet food stall run by an elderly woman. The aroma of sweet soy and rice porridge drifted around them like comfort. 2 bowls, Li Wei requested, trying to sound ordinary. When they sat on low stools, Mei Rong finally spoke. "We need transport." Li Wei nodded. "The Forgotten Temple is far from the capital, at least 2 days away by road." "Too slow," Mei Rong said. "General Han might already know we survived." As if summoned by her thoughts, a voice boomed across the square. "Search the stalls. The fugitives may be hiding here." Mei Rong's bowl froze halfway to her lips. Li Wei didn't look up, but he felt heat rise in his chest. Soldiers, 6 of them, were moving through the crowd, showing a charcoal sketch of 2 figures, one tall with royal features, one slimmer holding what looked like a book. The old stall woman leaned close. "You should go back door." Li Wei bowed gratefully. "Thank you." She gave Mei Rong a knowing look. "Your cloak cannot hide your eyes, child. Royal blood glows like lantern light. Now go." They slipped behind the stall just as soldiers approached. The back alley smelled of ginger peels and damp wood. Li Wei grabbed Mei Rong's hand. "This way." They ran through narrow lanes until they reached a stable. Horses neighed softly inside. Mei Rong pointed. 2 horses if we're fast." "Princess Mei Rong." A voice spoke calmly behind them. Li Wei's blood froze. He turned slowly. An elderly monk stood there, robes worn, staff carved with lotus petals. His eyes were deep and unreadable, like wells that had seen many centuries come and go. "You," Mei Rong said, startled. "How do you know my name?" The monk bowed slightly. "I knew your grandfather." Li Wei stepped protectively between them. "Who are you?" "Master Yun," the monk replied, "guardian of the Forgotten Temple." Both Li Wei and Mei Rong inhaled sharply. "You've been searching for us?" Mei Rong asked. "No," Master Yun said. But the moment the Emperor's star faded from the sky, the winds whispered of a chef and a princess carrying a book that should never have been written. Li Wei instinctively clutched the recipe book. "Do you know what's inside?" "More than you, less than the truth," Master Yun said cryptically. "But I know this: General Han is 10 minutes behind you." Li Wei cursed under his breath. The monk gestured toward the horses in the stable. "Take them, they are swift, they know the mountain paths." Mei Rong hesitated. "Why help us?" Master Yun smiled faintly. "Because the Emperor once saved my life long ago before he wore the crown. He asked for nothing, except that if his secrets ever awakened, I must guide the one who carries them." Li Wei swallowed. "Guide me where?" "To the Forgotten Temple," Master Yun said, "where the second recipe lies hidden. But beware, what you learn there may shatter your faith in everything." Voices echoed in the distance, soldiers shouting orders. Li Wei and Mei Rong exchanged a look. "Go," Master Yun urged. "The mountain awaits." They mounted the horses, their hands trembling with adrenaline. As they rode out of the stable, Master Yun struck the ground with his staff. A plume of dust rose, obscuring the alley just as soldiers turned the corner. "Run!" he shouted. Li Wei snapped the reins. The horses bolted into the forest, hooves striking the earth like thunder. Branches whipped past. Leaves burst into flight. Mei Rong looked back once, seeing Master Yun calmly stepping into the path of the soldiers as if daring them to strike. "He won't survive," she whispered. "He doesn't fear death," Li Wei said. "He fears what will happen if we fail." The mountain ridge rose like a sleeping dragon, its back covered in emerald forests and twisting trails. The air cooled as they climbed, carrying the scent of pine and moss. Hours passed. The sun dipped low. At sunset, they reached stone steps half swallowed by vines. The forgotten temple. It loomed ahead, ancient and broken, its once grand pillars cracked by time. Statues of lotus blossoms stood on either side, crumbled but still beautiful. A serene silence lay over the place, as if the world itself held its breath. Li Wei dismounted. This place, it feels like it's waiting. Mei Rong touched a broken archway. No one has worshipped here for centuries. My ancestors saw to that. There was no accusation in her tone, only sorrow. Li Wei took out the recipe book and opened to the second recipe. The ink glimmered faintly in the fading light. Lotus soup of the forgotten temple. A dish for remembrance. Beneath the lotus where no lotus blooms, search for the name erased. Beneath the lotus where no lotus blooms, Mei Rong repeated. What does that mean? Li Wei surveyed the courtyard. There were no lotus ponds, no flowers, only stone. Unless... He walked to the center of the temple courtyard where a massive carved lotus lay embedded in the ground. Weathered by centuries, its petals had broken off, leaving only the core. No lotus blooms here, Li Wei murmured. This must be it. Mei Rong knelt beside him. But what does search for the name erased refer to? Li Wei brushed dirt and moss from the lotus carving. Words faintly appeared along the rim. Here lies the truth forgotten. The name once spoken, now buried. A chill ran down his spine. He pressed a hand against the lotus center. It shifted slightly. A hidden compartment, Mei Rong breathed. Li Wei pushed harder. A grinding sound echoed as the stone lifted, revealing a small chamber beneath. Inside lay a bronze cooking ladle, a single lotus petal made of jade, and a scroll tied with red ribbon. Li Wei reached for the scroll. Before he unraveled it, the air around them shifted, heavy, electric. Stop! The voice came from the temple entrance. General Han stood there, sword drawn, soldiers flanking him like hungry wolves. We meet again, Han said, his smile cold. The Emperor's loyal little chef and the troublesome princess. Li Wei stood, scroll in hand. How did you? Master Yun tried to stall us, Han said, stepping forward. He failed. Mei Rong clenched her fists. You killed him. He chose his fate, Han replied. And now you will choose yours. Hand over the book and scroll. Li Wei tightened his grip. The moon rose behind them, casting long shadows across the courtyard. General Han lifted his sword. Last chance. Li Wei closed his eyes, then whispered the Emperor's words to himself. Real flavor comes from what is hidden. He grabbed the jade lotus petal from the chamber and slammed it against the stone. A deep rumble shook the temple. What did you do? Mei Rong gasped. The stone floor cracked, splintering lines racing outward. Light seeped through the cracks, glowing gold like molten truth. General Han stumbled. Stop them. Li Wei pulled Mei Rong toward the back of the temple as the floor collapsed, sending soldiers tumbling into the hidden depths. Han roared, grabbing onto a pillar. The temple groaned as ancient mechanisms awakened. Run, Li Wei shouted. They sprinted toward the forest path just as the courtyard imploded behind them, burying the soldiers under centuries of stone. General Han's furious voice echoed through dust and ruin. You cannot escape the truth. Li Wei and Mei Rong didn't stop running until the temple was a distant shadow. Only then did Li Wei finally open the scroll. 7 characters glowed in moonlight. The first emperor was not the true phoenix. Mei Rong trembled, but if he was, then who was? Li Wei turned the scroll to reveal deeper ink, older than the dynasty itself. A name appeared. A name erased from all history. A name that changed everything. Li Shanyu. Li Wei stared at it. His breath caught. His blood ran cold. That was his family name. That was his ancestry. Princess Mei Rong stepped back, eyes wide with shock. You, she whispered, you are from the line erased. Li Wei sank to his knees, the truth crashing over him like a tidal wave. The Emperor's last recipe book wasn't just a guide. It was a confession, a warning, and a legacy. The truth was simple, terrifying, undeniable. Li Wei's bloodline was the rightful heir to the throne. The forest swallowed Li Wei's ragged breathing as he sank to the ground beneath an ancient cedar, its roots twisting like old fingers around his trembling body. The truth echoed in his skull, refusing to settle, refusing to soften. Li Shanyu, the erased heir, the true phoenix, his ancestor. Princess Mei Rong stood several paces away, hands pressed to her lips, staring at him as though seeing him for the first time, seeing not the young palace chef, clumsy and earnest, but the ghost of a dynasty her own ancestors had stolen. Li Wei felt the world tilt. His chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. Princess, he whispered, I didn't know, I swear I didn't know. Mei Rong's expression flickered, pain, disbelief, fear, all tangled like knotted ribbon. The first emperor, the founder of my family's throne, took the crown from your ancestor. That's what the scroll says, Li Wei murmured. But I can't. How could I be connected to something so ancient? Her eyes softened with unexpected gentleness. Bloodlines carry further than stories. Our histories are carved, rewritten, erased, but blood remembers. Li Wei closed his eyes. He never knew his family beyond stories of humble tradesmen and kitchen roots. He thought he was no one. He was no one. But now he was somebody everyone wanted dead. Night draped itself over the forest, turning trunks into shadows and leaves into whispers. Li Wei finally forced himself to stand. Princess Mei Rong approached cautiously. Li Wei, she said quietly, look at me. He did. Whatever happened centuries ago does not change who you are now. My grandfather didn't trust you because of your blood. He trusted you because of your heart. Li Wei swallowed. If the council learns of this, they'll slaughter my entire family. And me, Mei Rong added, because I helped you. Silence stretched between them, fragile as glass. Finally, she took the scroll from his shaking hands and tucked it inside her cloak. We must keep moving, she said. The next recipe will explain more, it must. Li Wei forced himself to nod. His legs felt like borrowed bones, but he followed her. Where to? He asked hoarsely. Mei Rong pulled out the recipe book and flipped to the next page. Ink shimmered, as if the words had been written with moonlight. Recipe 3, Dragon Bone Stew. Seek not dragons of flesh, but dragons of stone. To find the truth buried deeper, go to the Dragon's Mouth Monastery. Li Wei exhaled slowly. I've heard of it. So have I, Mei Rong murmured. A monastery carved inside a cliff shaped like a dragon's open mouth, abandoned centuries ago. It is said the monks there guarded forbidden histories. Li Wei tightened his cloak around himself. If the emperor left a clue there, then he knew this truth all along. They shared a glance, heavy, sorrowful, determined. Let's go, Mei Rong whispered. The mountain path was steep, narrow, and treacherous. The forest thinned as they climbed, replacing green with jagged rock. Wind battered them from every side, carrying the shrieks of hawks above the cliffs. Hours passed. By dawn, they reached the ridge. The Dragon's Mouth Monastery was exactly as legend described, a massive stone cavern carved to resemble a dragon frozen mid-roar. Its fangs were stalactites, its tongue a broken bridge, its eyes hollow chambers swallowed by darkness. Li Wei shivered. Who would build something like this? People who feared what it protected, Mei Rong answered. They entered cautiously. Inside, the monastery was vast, corridors spiraling downward like the throat of a beast. Broken prayer wheels lay scattered, ancient sutras faded on the walls, incense pots overturned. Yet the air held a faint scent of lotus and ash, as if monks had prayed here only yesterday. Li Wei traced his fingers along weathered carvings. Dragons, lotuses, phoenixes crossed out, names scratched away. Someone had tried to erase history here too. Mei Rong opened the recipe book again. There should be a clue, she murmured. Dragon bone stew, there must be a deeper meaning. Li Wei scanned the walls. Look, these carvings. Dragons aren't literal, they are symbols. For power, for emperors, Mei Rong said. Or for the truth held in their bones. As they explored deeper, the temple grew colder. Their footsteps echoed through hollow chambers until they reached a large central hall. In the center stood an ancient cauldron, massive, ironclad, blackened by centuries of use. Princess Mei Rong gasped. It looks like someone cooked for an army here. Li Wei approached it. The recipe book mentioned stew. Maybe this is the dragon bone cauldron. He wiped dust from the rim. Carved on the side were words in the same calligraphy style as the recipe book. Within this stew once boiled. The truth of those forgotten. Li Wei's heart pounded. There's something inside. He leaned in. Mei Rong held her breath. At the bottom of the cauldron lay bones, small, delicate, almost powdery. Li Wei's throat tightened. Human bones, maybe monks. As he reached inside, the floor suddenly thundered, stones shifting behind them. Li Wei spun around. A man emerged from the shadows. Tall, cloaked, scarred. His eyes were cold steel. General Han sends his regards, he said, voice dripping malice. Li Wei stepped back instinctively. Mei Rong grabbed Li Wei's arm. Who are you? She demanded. The man grinned. I am Captain Zhao, tracker of traitors, and you two have been very, very difficult to catch. He drew his sword with a slow hiss. Li Wei shifted in front of Mei Rong. Fear twisted his stomach, but something stronger overrode it. Anger, purpose, destiny. You won't leave this monastery alive, Zhao warned. But before he could strike, Li Wei grabbed a handful of the powdery bone dust from the cauldron and threw it into Zhao's face. Zhao roared, blinded. Run, Li Wei shouted. They sprinted toward a side corridor, Zhao stumbling after them, coughing. The monastery's narrow passages twisted like a labyrinth. Torches flickered as if startled by their presence. Mei Rong turned sharply into a chamber carved with hundreds of dragon figures. Li Wei slammed the stone door shut behind them. Silence. Then footsteps. Zhao's voice booming. You can hide, but you cannot outrun fate. Mei Rong grabbed Li Wei's shoulders. We must find the clue and escape, quickly. Li Wei scanned the room. Dragons surrounded them on every wall, but one carving stood out. Its eye was hollow, a perfect circle. Li Wei approached it. This wasn't carved, it's a keyhole. Mei Rong gasped. The jade lotus petal. Li Wei pulled the jade petal from his satchel and fitted into the dragon's eye. It clicked. The wall shifted, revealing a narrow spiral staircase leading downwards. Li Wei and Mei Rong rushed inside just as Zhao reached the chamber, swords slashing the air where they'd stood moments before. The staircase sealed behind them, plunging them into darkness. Only a faint blue glow lit the descent. Li Wei lit a small oil lamp. The air grew cooler as they spiraled down, until they reached a hidden chamber bathed in soft blue flames, eternal fire burning on stone pedestals. At the center of the chamber lay a stone box. Mei Rong exhaled. The emperor must have hidden it himself. Li Wei opened the box. Inside lay a thin scroll, a wooden spoon carved with a dragon, and a dagger etched with ancient script. Mei Rong unrolled the scroll. Words glimmered. Dragon bone stew is not soup. It is sacrifice. To rebuild a dynasty, one must know how it died. Li Wei's stomach tightened. Rong read on. The monks were killed to seal the truth. Their bones guard it still. The first Phoenix Emperor ordered this massacre. Li Wei's voice was barely a whisper. My ancestor was overthrown by murder. Rong trembled. This is worse than I imagined. Li Wei lifted the dagger. Etched on the blade was a name. His ancestor's name. Li Shanyu. Born noble. Killed unjustly. Erased. Li Wei felt tears prick his eyes. Rong touched his hand gently. You're the last of a line meant to vanish. Before he could answer, a rumble shook the chamber. Zhao had forced open the hidden entrance. Stone cracked, dust fell. His voice echoed down the tunnel. I see you. Li Wei grabbed the dagger and spoon. We have to escape. Rong tucked the scroll into the recipe book. Where next? Li Wei glanced at the recipe page. The next clue appeared as if written by invisible ink now awakened. Recipe 4, Silver Dumplings of the Lotus Moon. Seek the truth in the city of shrines. There lies the record that cannot be burned. Zhao's footsteps thundered closer. Li Wei reached for Rong's hand. We run. And together they fled deeper into the ancient tunnels, chased by the past, and the soldiers determined to bury it forever. The night before the royal autumn feast arrived with a strange, shimmering coldness, one that did not belong to the season. Lanterns swayed in the courtyards as if pushed by invisible hands, and the palace guards whispered that ghosts walked the eaves. May felt the omen in her bones. It was the same feeling she had experienced when she touched the emperor's final recipe in the cookbook, the one with dried lotus, charred ginger, and a hidden ink smell beneath the pages. A recipe titled, Feast of Shadows, to reveal what hides in the living. She didn't yet understand what that meant. She wasn't sure she wanted to. But now the entire palace was preparing the same dish for the feast, following the emperor's handwritten instructions, and everyone who read the recipe felt a quiet, crawling unease. Head chef Liang slammed another basket of vegetables on the kitchen table. Who makes a royal feast dish that starts with burn the ginger until it weeps, he growled. Ginger doesn't weep. It does, May whispered. Every head turned. How do you know? She hesitated, because the emperor wrote it. A silence sharp as sharpened steel. Chef Liang's anger softened. The old emperor, he always had peculiar ways with words, but this feels cursed. Cursed. The word lingered. May opened the cookbook. The strange part wasn't the recipe itself, it was the stains. They were new, fresh, dark. Almost like ink that refused to dry. As she ran her fingers across them, she felt a faint pulse. A heartbeat. No one else seemed to feel it. 2 hours before the feast, the first warning struck. A young poison tester named Jun drank a spoonful of the soup simmering in the cauldron, the emperor's feast of shadows. He swallowed. He blinked. Then he collapsed screaming. It's not poison, the medic shouted as Jun convulsed. It's fear, he's hallucinating, he's seeing something. Several more testers fell moments later. Their hands clawed at the air, fighting invisible horrors. What are they seeing? Chef Liang whispered. May swallowed hard. She knew. The emperor wrote in the margins. This dish will expose the deepest truth a man hides from himself. The testers weren't dying. They were being forced to face their own buried secrets. But if that was true, then what would happen to an entire hall of nobles? Each one rotting with scandals, crimes, betrayals. What chaos would erupt? And why would the emperor want this to happen after his death? Prince Ren stormed into the kitchen, golden robes flaring behind him. Stop cooking immediately. The guards froze, the fires dimmed, even the boiling soup seemed to quiet. Ren looked at May. "You," he said in a low voice, "walk with me." She followed him through a back corridor, where lantern light flickered on stone walls. "What do you know about this recipe, May?" She hesitated. "It reveals hidden truths." Ren's jaw clenched. The court is already full of secrets. If this dish does what we saw, it could start a massacre. A long silence settled between them. "May," Ren's voice dropped. "What would I see if I drank it?" Something in his eyes broke. A rare vulnerability. She whispered, "What are you afraid you'd see?" Ren closed his eyes. "The night my mother died," he murmured. "I've always believed it was natural illness, but what if it was? What if I've always known it was?" May's breath caught. He continued, voice shaking. "What if the truth is that my father hid something from me? Or worse, what if I did?" May touched his sleeve gently. "You are afraid of your own memory." Ren nodded, silent. She wanted to reassure him, but she couldn't, not when the Emperor's recipe seemed capable of dragging out the darkest corners of the soul. That night, May returned to her quarters. But as she set the cookbook down, something strange happened. The ink on the page shifted. Just slightly. Enough that new letters surfaced under the lantern's glow. Hidden text. She held her breath as the letters rearranged into a line. "The truth is buried where I first learned to cook." May's mind raced. The Emperor had once trained secretly in the old palace kitchen, the underground one sealed after the Great Fire 30 years ago. No one was allowed there. But now she had to go. She grabbed a lantern and slipped through the quiet corridors, heart thundering. She bypassed a guard shift, crawled under a rope barrier, and found the entrance hidden behind a rotting tapestry. A stairway spiraled down into darkness. Cold, dusty, silent. The old kitchen was a grave. As May stepped inside, the lantern's light revealed shattered pots, burnt shelves, and blackened walls. A place frozen in tragedy. Then she saw it. A single unburned cabinet. Strange, considering the fire had devoured everything else. Inside was a small wooden box, carved carefully, with the Emperor's seal. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside lay an old parchment, a dried lotus flower, a hairpin carved with the emblem of the imperial concubine Yun, Prince Ren's mother, and a note. The truth of her death was cooked, not killed. Follow the lotus. May's knees weakened. The Emperor knew how concubine Yun died, and he hid the truth inside his recipes. She closed the box, but as she turned to leave, a voice growled behind her. "Put it down." A blade pressed cold against her throat. May froze. The lantern flickered, revealing a tall silhouette in the corner. Dark robes. A mask of iron. "I knew someone would return for that box," the voice hissed, "but I didn't expect it to be the girl who follows Prince Ren like a shadow." "Who are you?" she whispered. He chuckled. "A loyal servant of the throne, the current throne." Her blood chilled. This man served the prime minister, Ren's political rival. "I can't let you reveal what's written in that note," he said. "You would tear the palace apart." His blade pressed deeper. May's mind raced. Her hand shook, still clutching the box. But then a faint sound. Footsteps descending the stairs. The masked man cursed. A guard patrol. No, the steps were too light. A familiar voice called out. "May, are you down here?" "Prince Ren." The masked man tensed. "Not good," he snarled. "I didn't plan for him." He pushed May away, slashing at the lantern, plunging the room in darkness. A gust of cold rushed past her as he fled into the tunnels. Ren reached her moments later, grabbing her shoulders. "May, what happened? Who was here?" She clutched the box to her chest. "Ren, I found the truth about your mother." His breath stopped. They returned to Ren's chambers and unrolled the parchment. It was the Emperor's handwriting. "My beloved Yun, your death was not the illness they claimed. Your tea, your last meal, your breath. All touched by the hands of someone you trusted. Someone who wished to reach me." Ren's face turned pale. He whispered, "He's saying she was poisoned." May nodded. "But who?" Ren's eyes scanned the final line. A single phrase, written tremblingly, as if the Emperor struggled before death. "The lotus points to the one who cooks lies." Ren staggered back. "The Prime Minister's chef," he whispered. "He always used lotus in his signature dishes." May's heart dropped. The Emperor wasn't pointing to an ingredient. He was pointing to a person. The killer had been in the palace all along. Gongs echoed through the palace. The autumn feast was beginning. Nobles gathered, servants hurried, guards watched from the shadows. And at the head table sat the Prime Minister, calm, smiling, confident that the throne would soon tilt in his favor. May whispered urgently to Ren, "You can't let them serve the Feast of Shadows. If the dish reveals every hidden truth in the hall." "The Prime Minister's crimes may surface," Ren finished, "but so will everyone else. The court will erupt." "What will you do?" Ren's eyes hardened. "I will face the truth, whatever it is, and I will make the rest face it too." A gong sounded. The dish was being served. The Feast of Shadows. The room filled with steam, fragrant and bitter. Ren lifted his spoon. May grabbed his hand. "Ren, are you sure?" He looked at her, softening. "One can't build a dynasty on lies. If the Emperor believed exposing the truth was worth everything, so do I." He drank. The hall watched. And then, Ren gasped. His pupils shrank. His body swayed. May lunged forward, catching him as he collapsed. "Ren!" But before she could call for help, screams tore through the feast. Nobles fell from their chairs. Secrets spilled into the air like shadows made real. And at the far table the Prime Minister stood abruptly, face twisted in fury. Because his truth was rising behind him like a specter. Screams rose through the grand autumn hall as the Feast of Shadows took effect. Nobles clutched their heads. Generals cried out as memories long buried surged back into their minds. Royal officials collapsed, whispering confessions no one had ever heard. But in the center of the chaos, Prince Ren lay unconscious in May's arms, his breath shallow, his fingers twitching as if fighting someone inside his own mind. "Ren, wake up." He didn't. The shadows of his memories tightened around him, pulling him deeper into the truth the Emperor had buried in ink and recipes. And at the far end of the hall, the Prime Minister rose to his feet, his face contorted with a fury that blistered the air. "The Emperor's cursed magic," he shouted. "He wants to destroy this court even after death." But May knew it wasn't a curse. It was justice. Ren's mind spiraled through darkness. He stood inside a memory he had forgotten for years, a memory smothered by grief. He saw his mother, concubine Yun, sitting beside the window of her old chambers, brewing lotus tea. A gentle smile on her face. Soft eyes that held the weight of a quiet sadness. The door slid open. A man entered. Not the Emperor. Not a servant. A man dressed in dark chef robes, the Prime Minister's personal cook. Ren recalled the smell, lotus, ginger, and a faint metallic bitterness. "Your Highness," the chef said politely, "I brought an herbal blend prescribed for your health." Concubine Yun smiled, unaware. The chef bowed respectfully. But as he turned, His eyes flicked toward the young Prince Ren standing in the corner. Dark, calculating eyes. Ren remembered freezing. He remembered fear. He remembered thinking something was wrong. He tried to warn his mother, but no words came out. The memory dissolved into blackness and reformed again, this time showing her collapse hours later, the palace physicians rushing, the emperor's horrified face. And one more thing. The prime minister standing behind the emperor, head bowed respectfully. But his lips curled into a hidden smile. The truth hit Ren like a blade. He killed her, Ren whispered to himself. My mother died because someone wanted to break the emperor. And the emperor, in his dying days, left the truth for his son to uncover through recipes. Ren gasped and broke free from the nightmare, eyes snapping open. Meanwhile in the hall, the prime minister strode forward, raising a jeweled dagger. Seize the girl, he commanded. She brought this cursed dish here. She tampered with the emperor's cookbook. Guards hesitated. Mei stood, shielding Ren's body with her own. You poisoned concubine Yun, she said, loud enough for the entire court to hear. Gasps rippled. And you killed the emperor slowly with the same ingredients. The prime minister laughed. You think they will believe the words of a kitchen maid? You are nobody. Maybe, Mei whispered. But the emperor believed me enough to leave me his cookbook. She held it up. The prime minister's eyes widened, not with fear but with rage. He left it to Ren, he growled. No, Mei said. He left it to the one person who could see what others ignore. The prime minister lunged. Mei stumbled backwards as the dagger slashed past her cheek, sparks flying as it grazed a lantern. The hall erupted into chaos again. Guards drew weapons, nobles ducked under tables. The prime minister raised the dagger again, when a hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. A strong, steady hand. The prime minister froze. Prince Ren stood behind him, eyes blazing. Let go, Ren said quietly. The prime minister shook with fury. You saw nothing. The dish is corrupting your mind. I saw the truth, Ren replied. And I saw it in your shadow. Ren twisted the man's wrist. The dagger clattered to the floor. You poisoned my mother. And you weakened my father for years, so you could control the throne. The minister's face contorted. You know nothing, boy. Ren struck him across the face. Gasps filled the hall. No, Ren said. For the first time I know everything. The remaining guards rushed forward, this time not toward Mei or Ren, but toward the prime minister. He was dragged to his knees. The court watched, trembling, waiting for Ren's next words. Ren turned to them all. My father left behind a recipe book, not for cooking but for truth. He trusted that when the shadows rose, someone would stand in the light. His voice grew stronger. The dynasty will not be built on fear, poison, and secrets anymore. He pointed at the defeated prime minister. This man will answer for his crimes. The hall erupted in whispers. Some cried. Some prayed. Some simply stared at the young prince who had just claimed the future. Later that night, after the prime minister was taken away, Mei and Ren sat alone in the emperor's private study. Ren gently opened the cookbook to its final page. A small hidden pocket revealed a sealed letter, one neither of them had seen before. Ren held his breath, breaking the seal. Mei leaned closer. The emperor had written, to the one who finds the truth. A kingdom survives not on swords or fear, but on the courage to face what others refuse to see. Ren's eyes softened. Mei, if you read this, know that your heart will save my son where my strength failed. Guide him, protect him, and remind him that even an emperor must not cook alone. Mei's throat tightened. Ren whispered, He knew you would be the one to follow the clues. She shook her head. I was only trying to understand what he left behind. And you did, Ren said softly, more than anyone else in this palace. Their eyes met in the dim lantern light. For the first time, May realized Ren wasn't looking at her as a servant, but as someone he trusted. Someone he needed. Days later, after the Prime Minister was officially removed and arrested, Ren stood before the court to be declared the new emperor. The hall was quiet, reverent. As Ren accepted the imperial seal, he spoke. I will rule not by hiding the truth, but by bringing it into the light. May watched from the side, heart swelling. He finished with a surprising line. And my first decree is to open the royal kitchens to all people once a month. The emperor's table will belong to the dynasty, not only to the throne. The hall erupted in applause. Every set of eyes sparkled with new hope. That night, May returned to the kitchens alone. She opened the cookbook to the very first recipe. Sweet lotus congee for new beginnings. She cooked it slowly, gently stirring with care. When she brought the bowl to the terrace where Ren stood overlooking the city, he smiled. You made this. It was the emperor's first recipe. Ren took a spoonful, savoring the warm sweetness. It tastes like, he paused, like peace. May sat beside him. The moon glowed bright above the rooftops. The city sighed with calm. A dynasty had been saved, through ink, ingredients, and the courage to face shadows. Ren looked at her with quiet gratitude. May, will you stay by my side? She smiled softly. As long as you need someone to remind you when a recipe is lying. Ren laughed, really laughed for the first time in years. May closed the cookbook. Its pages no longer pulsed with secret ink. Its shadows had been released. Its mysteries solved. But its heart, its purpose remained. To guide. To teach. To protect. To reveal truth through the simplest thing in the world, food. May whispered into the quiet night. Rest now, Your Majesty. Your last recipe saved us all. The lantern beside her flickered once, gently, as if in reply. And thus, under the moonlit sky of a peaceful capital, a new era began. One cooked not with lies but with truth.
Thanks for tuning in to Hot Soup Stories. If you love audio stories, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your encouragement keeps our stories coming.